各族裔法轮功学员遍布全球。是什么力量在吸引着不同文化背景的练功人？请随大海访谈，了解他们对自然、社会与人生的看法。你还是个无神论者。
You can say that, yes. So then I talked to a friend of mine and she says, Yulia, you're in America now. You can't do it like that. You have to do it this way. You go, because the owner asked me to come to meditate and I didn't want to do it. And she says, you just go there 3 times. You go 3 times and then you say, I don't really like it. And then you don't come again. And I said, okay, but I don't want to go by myself. So I call all my friends, and there's a big group of us, and we came. And she had the practice site at the store. So we came 3 times, and I was the only one who was, stick around to practice meditation. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is that within a month, the transformation was amazing. The reason why I entered the practice was because of my health, as I said. Yes. And I was looking Yes, I was looking for alternative way to heal my thyroid, and I wanted to feel better. Mm-hmm. And basically my whole life is just like a counter of, pills and vitamins and cream, sugar, and coffee. That's all I was running on. And I don't think it was very healthy. And I don't think it was very helpful either. And I was... how old was I? I was 37, I believe. 37 at that time. So within a month, it's like somebody lifted all that heaviness, and I felt so light and healthy, and I forgot what it feels like to be healthy. Mm-hmm. I think I felt this way when I was a kid last time. It was amazing. It was just amazing. I had so much energy. I didn't know what to do with myself. I wouldn't need any naps. And I just felt happy. Mm. Like it was just, I realized that when people have terminal illnesses or like long-term illnesses, it just really weighs on you. But you don't notice it because you just live like that. So then it's sort of difficult existence in a way. So when I got healthier, I felt so happy. I had a lot of energy. I can accomplish a lot of things. And I was running around from morning till night, and I had no problem. But that was one part of it. I think the major part I've discovered later. So through practicing Falun Dafa, I quit cream, coffee, sugar. I used to smoke. I smoked for 22 years because everybody smoked in Russia. So yeah, I smoked. And I remember having conversations with my mother, and she says, I can just see you going, dying with this cigarette in your mouth, and because everybody smoked, so you're so addicted to it. I think it was like one thing, it was really hard for me to quit. And I was looking for ways to quit. I had a patch, and I had tried the different techniques and different things, and none worked. Mm-hmm. When I start practicing Falun Dafa, it wasn't easy. I think it took about 2 years, and I quit smoking, and it was natural. It's just like one day I woke up and I didn't want to smoke anymore. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. Like, it's all I remember. I used to, like, in the morning, I wake up, I open my eyes, I turn on the coffee, and I go outside, smoke a cigarette. First thing. And then, I smoke a pack a day. And so I was pretty addicted. And all of a sudden, like within 2 years, it just went away. And then I felt it just felt so great. It's such a terrible habit. It smells bad, it makes you feel tired, and your skin is really old, it damages your skin very much, and your hair. And I remember I used to get upset when my friends would make a comment, oh, you smell so bad. And I'll be like, but that's how we lived in Soviet Union. So everybody smoked. Like I went to work, we smoked. My manager, I remember he would say, I don't need you to leave your desk. So if you need to smoke here, you smoke right in your office. So I smoked in my office. We smoked everywhere, at home, everywhere. Now it's such a foreign concept. But back then, that's what it was. So I quit smoking, I quit drinking. And then within a couple months at the beginning of practicing Falun Dafa, I just didn't feel like I needed anymore to take all these pills and vitamins and all the things that all kinds of, mixtures and medical things that I would, create for myself to feel better. I stopped taking all of that. And I felt better than I felt when I was 20 years old. It was the first, it was a really major transformation for me.
那么除了身体上的变化，练法轮功对您的生活有其他方面的影响吗？
What followed was even more transformative. But it didn't happen quickly. It happened over a span of about, I think, 10 years. Because Falun Dafa is the practice of mind and body. And so the main text of Falun Dafa, John Falun, that talks about truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, which are the universal principles that we follow in practice. And so, as I read the book over and over, I start to understand more and more about human nature, about who we are, about our relationship with the world and with other people. And it sounds easy, truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, but practicing daily is the hardest thing for me so far. And the reason being is that because I realized that my foundation, especially growing up in the communist Soviet Union, was false. And it was not true. So a lot of concepts that I've acquired through schooling or through family or society, they were kind of distorted. It's more about selfishness and a lot of judgment. It's kind of deceit and jealousy and all these things. I think after maybe 5 or 7 years, I begin to realize, there might be something wrong with my values. Even though I read the book every day and tried my best to apply the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance to my daily routine, I still couldn't really conform. And what I understood is that I had a lot of notions I had to discard that I've acquired in my homeland about just, about marriage, about family, about children, about money, about businesses, being honest and all these, all these things. And so about 4 years ago, big transformation happened for me. I've been cultivating for quite some time, but all of a sudden, as these little things come off, and then I realize, this is not a very good notion, or this is not a good thought. I'm not being compassionate, or I'm not being really honest or very open. Like I would like to be, but I'm not. I wasn't there, right? And so about 4 years ago, big change happened, and I feel it's almost like all these avatars I've created. This avatar is for work, and this avatar is for family, and this avatar is for friends, and I'm behaving this way with these people and that people, to really just to protect myself and not experience pain or trauma as I have back in Russia. I think then they all collapsed. Every single avatar collapsed. In all these entities that were created, they all collapsed. And I kind of felt naked and uncomfortable at first. But then over time, I became more authentic, because now it was me learning the right way of being in the world and in this body, at work and with my friends. So I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to be a certain way in certain places. It was just me, and that was the same me everywhere I went. And it was kind of hard because I'm not young, and so it's like you have to face yourself and realize, like, wow, all these things I believed that was me, it was actually not me. And now I yet to find out who me is and learn the right way, the good way of being in the world. And so it was kind of humbling. It was a very humbling experience. And I'm glad that happened. And it happened because of Falun Dafa. Because I read the teachings of Falun Dafa over and over again. And that sort of dispelled the illusion of all the things that have been put in kind of like container, since childhood about everything. And so I start questioning everything. And it's for the first time, and kind of, it was really liberating because it gave me freedom. It really gave me the true freedom. I don't know how to explain it. It's hard to explain this concept, but it's like it's really you, and there's no need to pretend ever.
那就是在您读转法轮，就是您走进法轮功之前，也接触过西方的宗教。在西方的宗教里头，您没有感受到这种自由。法轮功和西方的这种宗教，它的最大区别是什么呢？
I think the bigger difference is, even though I thought I was practicing as a Russian Orthodox. As I said, it was more about rituals. I never read the Bible. I didn't know any concepts of, scriptures, any of that, any stories. I had no idea. So, because it was another kind of lie by the Communist Party in Russia, when the perestroika happened, they said, yes, churches are open now, you can go to churches. But people were not explained, like, what this for. It's like you can go and do all these, rituals, burn candles and do all these things and ask for forgiveness and all this stuff, but you don't understand the very foundation of why you're doing this. What is it for? So I considered myself for several years Russian Orthodox. Meanwhile, I was still looking for as I said, there's more to life than that. I was looking for a meaning and I couldn't find it. So I was trying different meditations. I was doing yoga for 8 years. I was trying different practices, spiritual practices. The problem with that was always, I would get very excited about it, and then I would, study the teachings or go with the group or, do whatever we're into. But then it would kind of hit the plateau. Just sort of know this much and that's it. There's no more to know. And so then I'll be on the next thing, different meditation or a different practice or reading different books, going with a different group and, all these things. And when I found Falun Dafa and I read a book for the first time and it answered all my questions that I had. And then I read it again and they answered even more questions. And then I read the third time and I couldn't put it down anymore because I realized I have something very, very precious and there's no limit to it. I can study this book forever. I can study it every day. I can read it 5 times a day if I want to. And I always find I learned something new. I learned new truths. I enlightened to things. And there's like infinite amount of wisdom in this book that has been guiding me to first to become a better person, and then better person to myself, and then better person to people around me, become more compassionate, not like kind or anything, but actually compassionate, so that, you know, like there's this concept I think I learned from a traditional Chinese culture. As I embarked with the Falun Dafa meditation, I started watching a lot of, like, reading a lot about traditional Chinese culture, or looking into the, you know, materials that had information about the arts and different characters and philosophies and all these things, because all of a sudden I realized this world exists and I had no idea it existed there. I've never studied, you know, a little bit. I've studied art history in college, but that was it. I never looked into it. And then all of a sudden I realized, wow, the traditional Chinese culture has so much wisdom, but it's not a surface thing. It's kind of like the more you delve into it, the more you understand, wow, it's not a simple culture as it seems on the surface. It has, there's no limit to wisdom. You can study all your life. You can spend many lives studying, and you will always enlighten to something new. There's so much wisdom in that book. And I could not find any other practice. And I've tried many, many different, as I said, practices. I couldn't find anything, not even close to that. So when I read the book, I think 3 times, then a friend of mine, who's the owner of the store, and she came and she brought a box of all the lectures, additional lectures that Master Lee, who is the founder of Falun Dafa, published. And she had it all printed out, and she there's like a big box, and then she gave it to me. She says, here's all the additional lectures if you want to read it. And I remember I completely I closed my doors for 3 months. And I read and read and read and read, and I couldn't stop, because I knew I finally found it. I've been looking for that all my life. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I was looking for something that would explain to me who I am, the meaning of life, you know, why a suffering, you know, why people go through what they go through, and how to deal with that. And I guess one of the biggest concepts I learned from reading these lectures is that oftentimes, as you know, I'm speaking for myself, you know, if you have difficult situations, there's a tendency to have resentment, you know, be angry about the situation, not accept it, and then carry that through your life. So with Falun Dafa, I understood that, wow, there's a different way of being, is that life is unfair. Life is difficult and life is unfair. And there's no explanation to that. It's just what it is. And doesn't matter what layer of society you're in. But through studying Falun Dafa teachings, it helped me to not have this attitude, oh, it's unfair. Why is this happening to me? What I gain is understanding. And that gives you like this inner freedom where you can forbear the situation, whatever that comes, and have a compassion for the person who may have offended you, and not be angry at them or not carry a resentment, and forgive them for the sake of yourself and for the sake of that person and all the people who are involved. And that was a big thing, because I grew up where my parents were always looking for who's guilty, you know, who's at fault, whose fault it is. Okay, that person. So we should blame them. You know, they're a bad guy. Yeah. Yes. So, and I lived like that. I didn't realize that, but that concept had a really bad effect on my health, because then you put in all these resentment, into yourself, like it's stuffing in, and then you're carrying around. And actually, I believe that it can make you sick because there's so much poison. So, on contrary, Falun Dafa teaches one to look within, which was also a foreign concept for me. Like, wait, he did something to me and it was pretty bad. Why do I have to look within? But when you do, you realize like, well, maybe that happened to me because I have done similar things, or I have similar beliefs, or I need to improve. So the focus, and it's kind of like one of those things, you can only control yourself, right? Well, so we cannot control other people. We cannot change other people either. And that is actually very powerful because then you can control yourself. So the world can be chaotic. It could be any way it is. And yet you retain this solid feeling of being calm and collected and rational, and do things not based on your emotions, but on what is right. This is another concept that was foreign to me. Like if somebody does something bad to you, the initial, like a knee-jerk reaction would be, oh, you did something bad to me. Oh, let me get you back, right? But Falun Dafa teaches you, no, you can't. Like it's not righteous way. It's not a virtuous way to be. You look within, you find your own shortcomings, and then you forgive that person. And if you need to endure, you just endure. And through this process, I've learned that I became a better person. I have more tolerance. No one is perfect, including myself, right? We all have shortcomings. And it gives you such a big just sense of humility. Like you understand that everybody's suffering. And maybe this person did this thing to you, not because they're happy, because they have some trouble in their life. And you should be more compassionate. Oh, that's very liberating. Because then you have a power. You have the power to you control your own reaction.
Wow. 很受启发呀！我听说练法轮功的人很多都有一些超常的体验，如看到别人看不到的东西，感受到别人感受不到的事情。您有这方面的体验吗？
Oh yeah, of course I did. When back in Russia, my family actually, my father, my sister and I, we were very supernatural in the sense that I remember my father was trying different kind of qigong, and then he'll tell us some stories. He would do some travels or something in different spaces. My sister was, I think they found a gold bladder stone in her stomach, and my mom told her, she says, just, pretend like you turning this stone into a sand and it disappears, and with your hand. And she did that within the month, and it just completely was gone. So we had this supernatural experience growing up. But when I started practicing Falun Dafa, I remember the very first supernatural experience was when I was standing in standing stance meditation. I think it was like a second day doing that meditation. And I remember it was very, like, my arms were really sore. And I was looking at everybody, how they're doing it. And they were like, oh, this is really difficult. And I was trying to relax into the pose and just not think about it. And so finally, I kind of relaxed and I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I see eyes everywhere. They're looking at me, and I thought, wow, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Like, I'm, big magnifying glass in the eyes, and then they're all looking at me meditating. And I thought, wow, this is really strange. And then I read it in John Falun, that explains why is that. happening is that my third eye was actually open and I can see a lot of things. When I was meditating, Shenyun Performing Arts came to Milwaukee, and it was I started practicing in November, and then the show was in April. So I was just brand new practitioner. And that morning I was planning, so we were planning as a family to go to see the show. And in the morning I was meditating. I was in the doing meditation, and as I said in meditation, I was undergoing a state of like, I was in very deep ding. So I just relaxed into meditation, and my whole body felt very comfortable. And all of a sudden I see with my Tiamu, with my third eye, like I'm above downtown Milwaukee, in the sky, in the clouds. And then there's like little walkway goes into the heavens. And I'm about 5 years old.
你确定这不是幻觉吗?
No, it's not illusion. I saw it very clearly. It was very clear. It's like you and I talking. No, it was not even like, you're not like in the dream or anything. Yeah, it was just very real. Mm-hmm. And so I was 5 years old, and then beside me was this huge lion, real lion. And then I looked at it and I thought, wow, this big lion is kind of friendly, and then I thought, wow, this is really unusual. And so a lion and I were going up, right, into the heavens. And there's a very tiny like stairways going up. And then I looked down and I saw the downtown theater where Shenyun Performing Arts was about to have a show. And it was under this kind of glass dome. And the dragons, like hundreds of dragons of every color, were flying over. And it was kind of like they were looking down to see, but they weren't really aggressive or, like they were friendly. And so they're just there to watch, sort of. And I thought, wow, I have never seen anything like that. Another supernatural experience, I guess, to see the show in Madison, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So, and it was, I believe it was kind of anniversary. And so I've decided to get like really nice seats right in the front. And so one of the soprano came out to sing. Mm-hmm. And as she started singing, mm-hmm. like the golden light came out from her mouth, and it filled the whole entire theater. Mm-hmm. Everything was gold. It just filled out the whole entire space, and I felt like I was in a different dimension. The light sort of went through me, and I can see myself being particleized, so the molecules, atoms, protons, all these. It's like a sand. I was not solid anymore. Mm-hmm. And this light went through everything, collected the dark matter, and then just took it back into the back theater and out into the space. And I understood that was the Communist Party culture that was in me was taken out. It's just removed, part of it at least. And it was pretty dark, like pretty black, yeah. So that was another supernatural experience.
有意思。您刚才说就是练了法轮功之后，对中国的传统文化呢了解更多，更感兴趣。那您有去过中国吗？
No, it's interesting you asked that, because someday I'd like to go to China. I believe right now is not a good time to go to China. But I would love to go there one day when the China is free and open. I'd love to go. When I learned about Falun Dafa, I was throughout the years, as I went on, I realized that it's so the traditional Chinese culture, not the communist culture, but the traditional Chinese culture is just so incredible. And I've never learned about it. My growing up in former Soviet Union, the only thing I saw is the flea markets full of Chinese selling cheap things, and then there was like, never buy them because they break and they won't last long, So my mother used to have a saying, we're not so wealthy to buy cheap things, you know. So anyways, and to me, that was Chinese culture. That's all I was acquired, you know, that's all I knew about it. But through Falun Dafa, what I learned is there's a whole different dimension to this culture. The tradition, the philosophies, the way of being and thinking and existing in the world is just so deep, and it's simple, but yet there's such a depth to it. I actually was so inspired by that. I started learning recently Chinese language, and I learned a lot of my goal is to read John Falun one day in Chinese. Fluently. Yes. And I'd like to go to China, you know, instead of going to China right now, I might go to Taiwan to try, you know, to just emerge sort of, you know, in the culture and learn the language. I think that would help me a lot with language. And, you know, what we do is our teacher teaches us the traditional Chinese characters versus the simplified characters that were invented by Communist Party. But and then each character has so many layers of meaning. That, you know, like when I read, I have a book and it's pinyin, and then there's all these, like, there's one character and it's like 5, 6, you know, meanings that it could carry. So just through this, I'm beginning to understand how, you know, immense the traditional Chinese culture is.
祝愿您早日实现您的想法哈，有一天到中国去看一看，中国确实是一个非常美丽的国家。
Yeah, I would like to do that.
Yulia， 今天您的谈话让我受益匪浅，让我了解了很多哈文化之间的共通之处。非常感谢您花了这么多时间和我们大家分享了您的经历哈，非常感谢。Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.